All right, so to do this, first of all, it's important to recognize the fact that we must know what this quadrant is. And the reason we have to know what quadrant it is in is our mnemonic tells us that all values are positive in the first quadrant. The sine is positive in the second quadrant. The tangent is positive in the third quadrant, and the cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant, also known as all students take cash. So right now, because this value of sine is positive, it could actually be in the first or second quadrant. So knowing that this is positive and in the first quadrant tells us that this angle must be here. So the first step in doing this is just to go ahead and draw this. So this is my angle. I have some angle here, theta. We don't know what that is, but I do have this right triangle, right? And remember, the sine of anything is always the y, or if you were hanging a screen from the ceiling, that's what you're looking for. And then you have the hypotenuse here. So that's what I'm going to go through and label. So I need the Pythagorean Theorem here in order to find out what x is. X squared plus 3 squared is equal to 4 squared. X squared plus 9 is equal to 16. X squared is equal to 7, or x is equal to the square root of 7. And once I have that, I know x, y, and the hypotenuse. So this is the square root of 7. Now I can go through and find all the trig functions. Was given sine, so first we'll go ahead and write that one down. The sine of theta is equal to 3 over 4. Because I've given the sine, the first one to do is the reciprocal of that, which is the cosecant of theta, also just the reciprocal of 4 over 3. The next one is the cosine of theta. Cosine of theta is that x value that we found, the square root of 7 over 4. The reciprocal of that is the secant of theta, which is going to be the reciprocal of that, which is 4 over the square root of 7. But we have to rationalize it. We do that by multiplying by square root of 7 over square root of 7 to go ahead and give us 4 square root of 7 over 7. So we found the sine, the reciprocal, which is the cosecant. Then we found the cosine, the reciprocal of that, which is the secant. The last one that we need to do is find the tangent of theta, and the tangent of theta is just y over x, which is just 3 over the square root of 7. Also rationalize and get 3 square root of 7 over 7. The reciprocal of the tangent is the cotangent. The cotangent of theta, and we're going to take the reciprocal before we went ahead and rationalize the denominator, so that will just give us square root of 7 over 3. Now, the reason they're all positive is because they are all in the first quadrant. And that's a really important thing to know. All right, so let's go ahead and look at another one. This is the cosine of theta is equal to the square root of 2 over 2. And this piece of information tells us that theta is in between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, which means this is in quadrant 4. So our mnemonic, again, is all students take cash. So cosine is definitely positive here. That means in the fourth quadrant is where I'm going to be drawing my angle. And this does mean that the sine, it's reciprocal, the cosecant of theta, the tangent of theta, and the cotangent of theta, they will all be negative. So make sure you remember that when you're going through and doing this. All right, so to go ahead and start again, I'm going to just draw my angle. My angle is going to be somewhere here. Draw your triangle always going from the angle. Again, this is theta. But I'm going to draw my angle going from the ray up to the x-axis. And this is the reference angle that I'm looking at. Now, I know that the cosine of theta is always going to be x over whatever that hypotenuse is. Because in this case, we do not have a unit circle to go from. So my x value here is the square root of 2. My hypotenuse here is 2. And what we actually have to find is y. We're going to use that with the Pythagorean Theorem. So I have the square root of 2 squared plus y squared is equal to 2 squared, or 2 plus y squared is equal to 4. Y squared is equal to 2. So y is also equal to the square root of 2. Now, in this case, y is down. That's going to give us a negative square root of 2. Now, if you don't put the negative in there, just be very careful. And when you write your final answers, you can add that in. All right, so let's go ahead and find the remaining trig functions. We started with the cosine of theta was equal to the square root of 2 over 2. Then we need the reciprocal of that. The reciprocal of that is the secant of theta, which is 2 over the square root of 2. Rationalize it. And that gives us 2 square root of 2 all over 2. This is still positive. Now going with the next one, going with the sine of theta, I know that is negative because it is in the fourth quadrant, is going to, and we also know it is negative from the value that we had here. And again, that's because the y value going down is negative. So that is going to just give me the same square root of 2 over 2, which tells me that the cosecant of theta is also the reciprocal. So that's negative 2 over the square root of 2. And that rationalizes to be the same thing, negative 2 square root of 2 over 2. And the last one is the tangent. And the tangent of theta is just y over x, which is equal to negative 1. And the cotangent is the reciprocal. The reciprocal of negative 1 is just also negative 1.